Ladies, here get started. Is that fine? The intern girls. God, I messed it up again. I just wanted them all to introduce themselves. They're all going to be giving some presentations like we've done in the past throughout the day. But I just wanted each one to kind of give a little bit of an introduction for themselves, and then Brenda's going to get started off just talking a little bit about the yield estimator app that Kurt was just discussing.
All right, good morning, everybody. I am Abby Wolcott. I am from Tolono. I am currently a sophomore in the Parkland Pathways program, so I am full-time Parkland, part-time U of I, and I'm majoring in agriculture and consumer economics with a concentration in agribusiness, markets, and management.
Hi everybody, my name is Kaylee Vlad. I'm from Monticello and I go to ISU and I am studying agronomy management.
I'm Ava Haltwanger. I'm from Rantoul. I'm going to be a sophomore at Parkland and I'm studying crop and soil science.
Hi everybody, my name is Campbell Cruz. I'm from Mahomet, Illinois. I go to the University of Illinois and I am a senior studying agriculture communications.
Good morning, I'm Bryn Boundy. I'm from Melvin, Illinois, and I'm going to be a sophomore also in the Parkland Pathways program to the U of I, and I'm majoring in agriculture education with a minor in computer science. So that's actually kind of why I wanted to start talking about this new yield estimating tool that Kurt was just talking about. So first, just how to use it. If you'd like, you can try to follow along in the app right now. If not, just try to remember the buttons, and it's pretty easy to access later. So first of all, you need to have your login. So again, you can go get signed up later if you don't already have an account. Then you're going to go in, select weather stations, go to the yield estimator. If it doesn't immediately pop up, there's usually like 3 horizontal lines stacked on top of each other. It'll be in the top left corner. Click that. It'll kind of extend a little bar and you can see the yield estimator option. Then you're going to allow it to use your location. It'll be a little pop-up. This will just help it so it can find your field faster. So find exactly where you are. So if you're right next to the field, then you can drag. There's a little blue pin over your field. Then you're going to put in plant population, kernels, and then count the kernels on the ear, of course. You could do anywhere from 1 to 4. The more you put in, the more accurate it'll be, just finding the average. And then go ahead and with the tap of a button, you can calculate the yield. So why would you use this app instead of just doing the calculation yourself? Well, first of all, it's just easier. Work smarter, not harder. Why would you get out your whole calculator just to do the yield estimate whenever you could just input everything right into the app and it'll also save it for you, which we'll talk about later. Next, this can also help you improve your management practices. So like Kurt was talking about, we're trying to figure out how to cut costs, especially now in these tough times. So just thinking about fertilizer, for example, looking at your yield and your projected income for this year, you can think about, I guess, if and how much you will spend on fertilizer. Also, it can help you to determine when to sell and what to set your market prices at, looking at your projected yield in the markets. And then finally, it can help you estimate your on-site storage so you have enough room for your grain. Next, you can also compare your estimated yield to your actual yield. So for example, say your estimated yield is significantly off from your final yield. Look at what, I guess, occurred between then and now whenever you cut your final yield. Finally, improving data collection will just improve the accuracy of the app. And then finally, you can help elevators prepare for harvest. So let's take, for example, elevator A. All the fields around it, as we said before, it takes your location and saves it. So all the elevators or all the fields around that elevator, say there's projected to be a very high yield there, but 20 miles east, there's an elevator that is not projected to have so high of a yield. We could therefore take those yield estimates and transport grain from elevator A to elevator B in order to create more room, make it so you don't have to wait in line just to haul your grain. And then I'll turn it over to Kyle for a little bit more.
So any questions on that? So like a fairly basic just yield estimating tool that we wanted to put on there. I was using it most of this weekend. One of the things I've given some feedback, the guys that we're working with and the developers that are putting in this, I want something in there that we can capture some notes. If you're out there in the field, I want an option out there where we can put the hybrid in there. If you're like me, I'm staring at my phone all the time. I'm looking, whether it's your My John Deere or it's climate, understanding what hybrid I'm looking in so I can document that back later and then follow that up during harvest. That way when we're harvesting, I can understand, hey, what was it? The varying factor, as we all know, is always that kernels per bushel. Is it 85,000 kernels per bushel? Is it 70,000 kernels per bushel? God forbid it's higher than 85 this year. We'll get into some of that a little bit later, just what we're seeing. But he said for those that aren't signed up for UP Connect, I mean, there's no cost to it. We're just getting it in there, and these are some of the tools that we're going to keep expanding on.
Kyle,
Yes.
can you change your kernels per bushel?
You can.
In that?
It's defaulted 85,000, John,
That
but
was
you
fine.
can change it to whatever you want. Change your population, whatever you want. But yeah, you can. It just defaults in 85. We felt like that's probably the. I always stay super conservative when I'm out there. I always use 85,000. I'd sure as heck rather be surprised at harvest than disappointed. That's why I say, God forbid, we get up over 85. Any other questions? Okay, so when the interns and I were talking the other day, we were talking about things that they could wanted to discuss with you, wanted to explain to you, and we kind of got on a sidebar conversation, just talking about their generation and the expectations that you all have for their generation, and sometimes the expectations that they have for you. So Abby and Kaylee here have put together a little bit of a presentation and going through some of those items that I encourage everyone just to listen hard into, whether it's the younger generation here or whether it's the older generation. This is for everyone. Oh, you don't need this.
You don't. Good morning, everyone. Once again, I am Abby Wolcott. This part's kind of unplanned, but I just wanted to highlight the fact that our intern team this year is obviously all females, but not only that, but none of us come from a row crop operation. So we came in with some ag background and like FFA and other jobs we've had, but otherwise we've been learning together, and I feel like it's helped our bond form, and it's nice to have that community. So over the summer, I had the opportunity to sit down with growers along with the seed salesmen and talk about the communication gap between our generations, adequate qualities of a salesperson, and what the future looks like related to succession down the road. In my opinion, the most beneficial way for me to learn this summer was speaking to the growers about their operations and the ag industry as a whole, but what they had to say caught me off guard. It wasn't about the roles the younger generation was going to fill, or it wasn't about the experience that we were or weren't bringing to the table. It was about how we communicated. In my generation, Generation Z, we often receive a text and we believe that it doesn't warrant a response. For the preceding generations, an okay would suffice, or they even prefer that we pick up the phone because it would benefit the situation better. Speaking of telephones. So for Gen Z, we're picking up the phone far too often, but in all the wrong ways. So how do we solve this communication gap? For the older generations, they need to make their expectations clear, and they need to tell us their preferred forms of communications for certain situations. For the younger generation, we need to be more willing to adapt and mature in order to meet business needs. However, there's a fine line to walk between picking up the phone and calling too much. As a person with an interest in sales, one of my biggest questions for the growers was, what qualities do you want in a salesperson? Their big answer was, they want someone who picks up the phone, they want someone that can give their honest opinion, and they want someone who can admit when they don't know something and need to do some research. However, they don't want a salesperson that calls too much. So how do you differentiate between what's important to the grower and what's important to the salesperson? And again, that's where communication becomes key. In my opinion, the best way to combat this issue is to sit down face to face and build that relationship early on so you can understand their communication boundaries and what they're expecting out of you as a salesperson. However, some growers' preconceived notions and opinions about the younger generation can be unfair and unrealistic. Generation Z is often viewed as lazy, soft, undedicated, and lacking a work ethic. While yes, there's water hemp in every field, it doesn't ruin the whole crop, similar to our generation. On top of that, we are often viewed as the iPad generation, or able to easily fix technology on the spot. Speaking for myself, I am worse at technology than most, and I think a lot of my peers feel the same way. So as an intern group, we came together to brainstorm, how do we beat this stereotype that's hanging over our heads being so young? The most obvious answer is to let time tell the story and help us prove our work ethic. However, in future interviews, we don't have time on our side. Rather, we must prove ourselves with life experiences such as hardships or obstacles that we've had to overcome and past jobs that we've had that have shaped us into the employee we are today. We must build connections, whether that be with colleagues or growers, that are willing and excited to give us references and help us further ourselves for our future careers. We must be prepared and confident to not only do the job, but exceed at it. We must be willing to fix the technology, but we also must encourage older generations to excel at troubleshooting. I'll now turn it over to Kaylee to express some additional thoughts we had this summer.
As Abby said, I'm Kaylee Vlad. So I just want to talk and explain, like Abby just explained some of the obstacles and misconceptions that our generation faces, but the 5 of us interns think it's important to share some of the attributes that our generation brings to the workforce in our everyday lives. And firstly, I think it's important to note that our generation has a hunger for knowledge. It may not seem like it, but more people are getting post-secondary education after high school. And in college, there's also more opportunities for research and internships, which also bring more opportunities to next generations. So I know for all of us, the 5 of us interns, we all sought after multiple different internships before deciding on United Prairie. Past generations also had access to things like 4-H, FFA, Farm Bureau, and Student Council, but they've become readily available, and they all give students opportunities to network, develop professionally, and participate in leadership roles. Our generation is also willing to make mistakes and learn from them. This internship has given us all a chance to make mistakes and
Can't wait.
I'm so sorry. This internship has also given us all a chance to make mistakes and learn from those mistakes by further refining our skills and to build confidence. We're also willing to dedicate our time to flexible work schedules. We as a generation are all about work-life balance, but we understand that agriculture is a push and pull system, or a give and take. Our example of this is scouting. We learned through scouting how to effectively utilize our time by creating thorough reports and making it to every field. So, as Abby has said, the ways to bridge the gap between generation is time and communication. So, before I hand it over to Kyle, I want you to think of somebody in your life who has helped you get to the point right now. We are the same. We're looking for those people right now. So, mentors, peers, parents, these are all people that not only help to shape our beliefs, but also our core values. So, things like work ethic, dedication, and proper behavior. So I want you to think back in your life and remember who helped to guide you, good or bad, to where you are today. So now, think about the next 10, 20, even 30 years. Who will be taking over your operation, and how are you setting up your predecessors for success?
Thank you.
Yep, thank you.